On ground in Bengaluru, and joining me is Mr. Kotasri Srinivas, who's Vice Chairman, Direct Tax Committee, Institute of Chartered Accountants of India. Thank you for joining us. The Finance Minister of India just was here on her campaigning, and she was sharing extensively on the fact that how it is important to bring more and more formalization of chartered accountants so that the fear that taxpayers hold should go away. What are your thoughts on this?
Basically, thank you for being here. In fact, Finance Minister was here not for an election campaign but to meet the intellectuals of Chartered Accountants in Bangalore. We are very happy for her visit to our branch and addressing our members as such. First of all, you're asking them about the fear of taxpayers. I would like to say that as of now, maybe in the couple of years, in the last a decade, I should say, the fear has reduced. So the fear has reduced. One is with respect to the government policies, and second one is with respect to the fraternity, the chartered accountant fraternity. Because if you see, no client will pay tax, even 1 rupee of tax, whether it is a GST, whether it is a TDS, whether it is a self-assessment tax, or any other taxes without the consultation of a chartered accountant. So I should be proud to say this fraternity is working day in and day out and educating the taxpayers in India, and that's one of the reasons why in the last 2 years, whatever the amount that has been budgeted, we are exceeding that, and also the government initiatives.
Okay. Mr. Srinivas, the full budget, of course, will be taken up, announced after the new cabinet is formed. What are the kind of tax proposals you have that you will be submitting to the government? What should centre be looking at?
Ma'am, as I said, the tax buoyancy has increased, like more and more people are coming forward to pay the tax. And in fact, the government is also talking about the trust. So they are believing the chartered accountant, means the taxpayers as such. And if you see the scrutiny levels, it has come down drastically. Maybe out of 100 returns filed, 98 will be passed. And that will be passed because of the technology and also the work of the chartered accountants. Regarding the proposals, of course, there are certain rationalizations required, like rationalization of GST. Like we have various taxes, various rates of taxes. In fact, orally, I spoke to in the lift, I spoke to the finance minister also regarding the rationalization of GST rates. She said it is under the discussion. And the second one is simplification of TDS rates. So that also requires. And of course, today we require more and more benefits to the taxpayers, because the number of taxpayers are very less compared to the overall population as such. So there should be some more incentives to the taxpayers as such. And there may be certain simplification, because we are talking about ease of doing business. So the tax also should be simplified. Tax rate should be simplified. Tax procedures to be simplified.
Right. You did talk about GST. You also did talk a bit about the proposals that could go as a part of the Direct Tax Committee. But it was in the last full budget, before the vote on account budget, that the government had introduced the new regime as the default regime. Now, of course, the numbers will only come after June when the tax filing date passes. But how do you look at this? Do you think it has been a good move in a way that taxpayers can choose an alternate regime? And on the hindsight, do you see that impacting in any way the taxpayers' perspective on investments for the old regime?
Madam, this new tax regime, as you know, it has become a default tax regime in the last year's budget. And the Indian psychology, the Indian structure is that savings. Now, if you say that in the new tax regime there won't be any deductions available, it may affect the members thinking towards the savings that they have to have. And in India, we don't have certain systems like social security, which we have in other countries. Basically, I feel that removing all the deductions is not good for the economy as such. Of course, the government is doing a lot of things like insurance and all, but still there are things where you should encourage people to save the money. So in that regard, I feel new tax regime may not be very effective for the Indians as such. It should be old tax regime only, where you should allow certain amount of investments and savings for them.
By any chance, do your proposals include some kind of tweaks to the new regime to bring in investments or something on that sort?
We have certain proposals, but not too many. Of course, one or two more deductions were available, but I still feel it should allow some more deductions. You know.
One last question. You did talk about finance minister telling you on rate rationalization of GST. Now, of course, that comes as a part of the indirect regime, but when you say rate rationalization, are you looking at simplification of rates, merger of rates, or some other way out?
See, one thing is in some of the developed countries, the number of tax rates for GST may be less, maybe one or two maximum. Here we have 5 to 6 rates. So now, when once you see the collections are increasing and whatever the budgets are there, it is coming. So some relief should be given to the citizens as such. So instead of having that 28% rate, whether we can rationalize that, we can combine to merge it to 2-3 rates and bring it to 4, and going forward whether we can reduce it. And some of the countries are there where if you pay as a consumer, if you pay the GST, some portion will be given credit to their income tax.
Right.
So in India, we don't have that policy. Of course, if those things also come, then people will be interested to pay whatever tax is levied, so that they will get that as a credit for their income tax, as advance tax. If these measures are coming, then we don't mind of paying the more taxes towards GST. But otherwise, I feel it should be rationalized and it should be reduced. With respect to income tax, also I said that simplification of TDS, because we have a lot of TDS provisions and different rates, varied various varied limits. So that also a simplification is required.
Yeah.
I hope the government will take this into consideration and do good for the people as such.
One last question, and this is on the 1% TDS that was put on VDAs, virtual digital assets. Did you see some kind of change in the filings, in the taxpayers' interest declining, or because of this tax that has come? Because this was 30% income tax already that they had announced.
Yeah. No, I think we have to wait for that. Maybe this year we will say, as you said, after the filing, that virtual digital assets, we have to wait and see what will be the impact on that. But of course, a small levy is always necessary, so that we know we'll get an information. So some of the TDS rates are there, like 0.1%, 1%. It's not for levying purpose, but to have the information. What are the transactions that is happening.
Okay, got it. Thank you very much for joining us.
If you like the video, do like, comment, share and subscribe.